Ready. There we go.
Well, I think all of you know me. Hi, Laura, Samantha, Charlotte. But I'm Carolyn. Carolyn's Absolutely Fabulous Events. I think you see me quite a lot at HAYVN. At the moment, though, I'm not doing any catering, so I thought it would be quite fun to do a few cooking videos. And Felicia very kindly asked me to share a cake recipe today because it's Felicia's son's, Cameron's, birthday. So it's no ulterior motive whatsoever. So what I was thought, since we have Passover and Easter this week, I have two really good recipes for flourless chocolate cakes. I've already demoed one, and it's on my YouTube video, and that's the one I'll show you at the end to see what this looks like. But this is the second one I'm going to demo, and this is a really, really straightforward one in terms of it's really only got 4 ingredients, which is chocolate, butter, eggs, and sugar, plus the chocolate eggs we're going to use at the very end. So a lot easier to find the ingredients because I don't know what you're like, but I'm certainly not going shopping very often. And the last time I looked, getting things like almond flour, can you hear me okay? Yeah, getting things like almond flour is a bit tricky. So this is really much more sort of things that you would already have in your cupboard. So there's just a couple of basic steps to it, but we're going to start off. The cake itself is probably quite similar to how you make brownies. I'm not a big brownie maker, but you start off by melting chocolate and butter together. So for this recipe, it's 9 ounces of chocolate. Now, I usually mix my chocolate. I'm not a great lover of dark chocolate. And what I normally use is the Trader Joe's bars. These are fantastic. And I normally have dark and milk, and I do half and half. But when I went to look in my cupboard this week, although I had bought a massive amount of chocolate to see us through the, this next few weeks, there was no milk chocolate left. So luckily I had some other bits of chocolate, and I then had to resort to the semi-sweet. So you could just use these baking chips, totally fine. But I like this chocolate's great, and it's a great price point. So for this recipe, it's 9 ounces of chocolate and 5 ounces of butter, which is just a stick and a quarter. We're going to just put that on. This has to be melted and then cooled slightly before you can add it to the cake. So let's just do that. So for the cake itself, we don't need this. You just take 6 eggs, and I've already separated them out. So you take 2 eggs, you leave whole and put them in the bowl, and the other 4 you separate out. So 4 egg yolks go into this bowl here. I don't know if you can see me. This is when I lose my head. And then 4 of the egg whites go into the mixer, and you want to make a meringue with that. And for this, we're using 1 cup of sugar. I put 1/3 of the cup of sugar goes in with egg whites, and 2/3 goes in with the egg yolks. And just a word of warning when you're doing this, if you're separating the eggs out, I always use a kind of 3-bowl method. So I separate the egg, I put 1 yolk in 1 bowl and 1 white separately. And then I add the white to my large bowl. The next egg, I do the same, because if you get any egg yolk in your egg white, they won't whip properly. So it's a bit of a faff, but you just need to separate them out. But I'm sure you guys all know that already. So all you do is you whip the egg whites into meringues. Now, I love my mixer. It makes really short work of this, but you could technically do it by hand or do a handheld. And this one here, you again just take a whisk the egg yolks together. And we'll just need to wait for the chocolate and the butter to melt. So while we're doing that, I'm going to share with you how we make the ganache. Again, this is something I generally make ahead of time because it has to cool before you put it on the cake. So for this recipe, this is super easy, and it's the kind of thing that it's one of those great recipes to have, not just for this cake, because you can use it for things like ice cream, or I was thinking profiteroles might be quite nice with chocolate sauce. So we're just going to take a half of a pint of cream, which is 1 cup. So this is 1 cup here. Now I quite often make a big batch of this because it keeps really well in the fridge. Or you can also, let me just, keeps really well in the fridge, or you can freeze it in like small containers. So you've always got a little bit of chocolate sauce around. Let me just heat this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to scald this, which is a technical term, which means we bring it just up to boiling. We don't want it to get too hot, but let me do that now. And for this, I use 8 ounces of chocolate. So again, I like a mix. I've got some milk chocolate buttons and some more of that wonderful Trader Joe's dark chocolate. And we're just going to add the cream to this. So give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to mix the 2 things over here.
Hey, Carolyn.
Yeah.
There was a question here. Someone, let's see, can you use unsweetened powdered chocolate?
I don't know. What I would do is find a recipe that uses that. I don't know how this compares. I can certainly look into it for you. So what I was going to, while we're waiting for that, in fact, 2 things. I forgot to say, before you start, you need to first of all put your oven on. So, because it should be up to temperature, and that's 350 in Fahrenheit or 116 centigrade. And I think before some of you were here earlier, I was just going to show you the tins that I use. So I was explaining that this is actually my normal tin. You may have seen it at HAYVN. This is the tin that I normally make my chocolate cake in. And what you do is you have to line the base and grease around the edges. Now, for some reason, the cake that I made yesterday refused to come out of the tin. So that's the great thing about the ganache. It kind of acts like glue and holds it all back together. So we're not using the tin today. I'm going to use just a standard spring form, because what's quite nice about that, you can release the edges and then slide the cake off. That's the tin I use. Let me just check this. But the reason I use this recipe for chocolate cakes, because Felicia a couple of weeks ago asked me to do this. So I was going to do one of my lemon blueberry, you know, one of Felicia's favorite cakes. And then she mentioned it was Cameron, her son's birthday. So when I was on the phone one day with him, I made the mistake of asking Cameron what his favorite cake was. And of course, he didn't really venture for lemon blueberry or plain or whatever else I was thinking about doing. He asked for chocolate. So I have one cake recipe, which is a fabulous cake recipe, and I use it for all the things that I do. It's a standard Victoria sponge. It's the classic 1 egg to 2 ounces of flour, butter, and sugar, which is another thing I might share with you one day, but I don't use it for chocolate cakes. And that's one that I quite often use like powdered chocolate with, because I find, I don't know whether you've had it, but chocolate cakes can be a little dry, can be a little sort of hard work. Whereas I find this one, because it's a ganache, the ganache, and also because it's flourless and with the eggs and with the butter and sugar, it's really a consistent cake. It's always worthwhile having. Whereas the other ones I find I'm sometimes not worth eating. So that would be the only thing I would say. The chocolate and the butter is what makes this a sort of dense cake. So I'm not sure if the powdered cocoa would work, but I will definitely investigate for you. Stirring this.
While you're stirring, there was a couple other questions. I don't know if you want to hold them till the end, or I keep asking things. Someone said, how many ounces of chocolate in your sauce?
In the sauce, 8 ounces of chocolate, half a pound.
Okay.
So if you use one of these, this is just over a pound. Honestly, you know, 7 or 8. I was reading someone else's recipe recently and she only used 5. So I don't think it's a, you know, it's a sort of, I don't think it's a desperately, anyway, we can write. And what was the other question?
Just if we'll get a printout of the recipes afterwards.
I'm gonna write up my blog to have this recipe on it as well, and then at the end I'll give you a link to it.
Okay, great. And we'll share it on our social media, I guess. And
so I've just taken this up to boil. It was just starting to simmer there. So all you do to make this ganache, I don't know if you can see the steam, is pour the cream over the chocolate. It really is very simple. And you can add like salt or honey or something like that, or not. And then you leave it for 5 minutes. And the cream does the work of melting the chocolate. And we're going to come back to that later. So let me just put that down. This is still not melted, little monkey. I was trying to do timings for this yesterday, but I think I'm pre-melted the chocolate. Just talk among yourselves for a minute, okay?
Is this gluten-free and vegan, Carolyn?
It's gluten-free, but it is absolutely not vegan. It's because it's got cream and eggs in it.
I'm joking.
I made a vegan cake recently, which had things like coconut yogurt and coconut milk yogurt and some other weird ingredient. It was actually quite edible, but
I found a great substitute for butter. I think you've used it before, Carolyn. It's called Mykonos or something.
Yes, the cashew butter.
Yeah, it's great.
I think butter is fairly easy because you know I still have plenty of cookbooks that list margarine as butter or margarine. So I think that part's fairly easy. I think eggs, you can use things like applesauce. The cream I haven't quite figured out. So this is still a bit hot. I'm just going to dunk it in cold water for 2 seconds.
the kitchen space is beautiful. It looks like it's all propped, just like the what's that?
Nigella Lawson?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Martha Stewart set.
Yeah, or there was that movie that the woman, was it Meryl Streep that, or some? No, not Meryl Streep had that movie where she started the bake shop or something. She was.
Yes. It's we just watched it. Not Something's Gotta Give, but the other.
Yeah, the other one. Yeah,
other one.
Jack with Alan Baldwin or
Yeah,
Steve Martin.
such a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to cool that slightly. Let's see how this ganache is doing. You can see it's starting to melt. So we'll just give it a few more minutes.
Is it where you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question, Carolyn. Is this recipe fattening?
No, it's hot. It's the holidays. Nothing is fattening.
Thank you.
Nothing is fattening. So you can see, I don't know whether you can see the consistency of this. It's really quite amazing that just by putting these two ingredients together, I've still got lumps of chocolate in here, but this does give you a pretty solid ganache. Give that 2 more seconds. So as I was saying, I've got the egg yolks and sugar. I've got the egg whites. I'm going to just whip them again. And then I'm going to show you the consistency of these. So this is really, there's nothing in the cake to make it raise. There's no flour or baking powder. So what you're relying on is the air that you capture in the egg whites. So what we've done, you can see, we've whipped them. So they're kind of stiff. They're holding their shape if you put like a spoon through it. So that's called like a soft peak. To be honest, if you put them a bit more, it's not the end of the world. I think I did the other day, but that's how it looks. So let's get the chocolate back. Probably slightly warm. All we're going to do is add the chocolate and butter mixture into the egg yolks and those 2 eggs. Sorry, I don't know how to put off notifications on my computer. I apologize for the beeping sound. And we're going to mix that together first. And then we're going to fold in the egg whites. And I want to do that gently. And to begin with, you just take one of the spoons of egg white and fold that in. So you can see I just do a circular motion and pull it in like that. Take the rest of these. All out. So just fold that in. You want to just incorporate it all so you don't see any egg whites by the end of this. And that is all there is to making this cake. Just get it all uniform. So you can see a nice big uniform chocolate mixture. And we take our prepared tin. Just get all of that out. And put it in your oven, and it's going to take about 35 to 40 minutes. I tend to start looking after about half an hour because that's how I am. I'm a bit of a fidgeter. And what you want, let me just put it in the oven. What you're looking for, because we won't have time to see it when it comes out, is you want to be able to, it should be risen, and you should be able to put like a cocktail stick in, and it should come out fairly clean. You still want it to be sort of soft in the middle. It's not a dry cake, but you want it to be fairly set. So that was the cake, easy peasy. I'm just going to show you that this has formed into chocolate ganache here. It's still very thin. So what you need to do with this is either leave it on the counter for a few hours, up to 6 hours, or if you're in a bit more of a hurry, put it in the fridge for a couple of hours, and it should then set to like that, the normal thicker ganache. In fact, let me take out some from the freezer. So this is my ganache that I saved. And you see it goes from being liquid to being completely hard, solid. Like that. So if you want, so like I say, this would, if you want, you can catch it when it's time to put it in the cake. What I do is I make it ahead of time. And I put it in the microwave on the defrost setting. So this morning, I had some ganache that I'd made yesterday, and it was completely solid. So I threw it back in the microwave for about a minute. Keep an eye on it because you don't want it to get too hot because it'll go completely liquid again. So like if you were doing an ice cream sundae or profiteroles or something like that, you do want it hot, then you can just pour it over. But for something like this, you want it more of a spreading consistency. And in the best traditions of cooks, I have one that I made earlier. Can you see this? This is my slightly dodgy heart because it didn't go in. So all you do is take it out of the tin very carefully, put it on a plate, and then take your ganache. I didn't use all the ganache, I kept a little bit back, but just spread it around because this cake, once it cools, there will be a dip in it. There'll be a beautiful hollow, which is perfect for pouring your ganache in, and also perfect for kind of like sticking all the bits that have fallen off. And then I just finished off with a bag of Easter eggs. Hi Cameron, happy birthday. With Easter eggs. So if anybody wants some, I've got loads in my house because every time I've been to CVS twice and they've got so much there that I felt obliged to help them out with their destocking. But the other thing I do with this, which I think you've probably seen at HAYVN, is I put raspberries on it. So away from this time of year, this is really nice if you wait until the ganache is almost set and then just decorate raspberries and then a little bit of powdered sugar. So that's it. Straightforward. That
was amazing. There's a couple of questions here, more questions. Kim asked, how do you prep the pan if you don't have a springform pan? Right. I would grease the edges and then use parchment paper, cut out to size. It's the best way. So as long as the base has got parchment paper, you can cut around the edge and it should release. But for some reason today mine didn't because that's the way life works. But I just cut it out to size. But I have these super lazy. I have these pre-cut. Where do you get those? Those are amazing. Amazon. So I do all sorts of things like that. This is my treat to myself. I also have ones which are the right size for half sheets. So whenever I go, so I use them for everything that I do if I'm roasting vegetables or whatever I'm cooking. I tend to put a sheet of parchment paper because I don't mind cooking. I hate cleaning. What else? Okay, Linda asked, how are your chickens? And she needs. They're doing really well. I almost lost one. I had a bit of a touch and go moment with one of the chicks, but they're all, even she's like starting to get back up to size. So yeah, in fact, we've got a live feed because my husband is Mr. Tech Boy. We have a live feed on the chickens if anybody's interested. Oh, that would be great. You should share that on Slack for sure. We should put that in. So I would love to just like unmute people, and if they're on video, to just chat for a few minutes and maybe share this amazing cake together. This is your birthday cake, okay? Yeah. So I'll be delivering it later. So how about we unmute and people just chat a little bit, and we could sing happy birthday and celebrate. Yeah.
He says no.
I guess this kid's had this, the poor guy has his girlfriend's in New York City. He's been stuck with us for, I don't know how long, it's 4 weeks. Thanks. So,
it's not the worst place to be.
Yeah, there we go.
You can go for walks.
You could take
plenty of walks.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody's had their trials, but let's sing a little happy birthday and a thank you. And we can just keep chatting. Ready?
Yep.
Happy birthday.
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
dear
Cameron. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Very, very nice. You guys know how to make somebody feel very warm and welcome.
Okay.
Okay.